All right, all you members of this Trump-hating media, we know you're watching. Well, let's start with a little news flash for you. President Trump did not, let me repeat, did not fire the special counsel, Robert Mueller. So all of you rigid, radical, left-wing ideologues, you need to take a collective deep breath or a Xanax or a drink, whatever works better. Now, you can take it and you can breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth and see if you can stop with your hysteria, your breathless reporting, this rampant speculation. And I want you to listen closely. President Trump, he did not fire the special counsel, Robert Mueller. In fact, the president and his legal team have been more than cooperative. They have voluntarily handed over 20,000 pages to the special counsel. In total, Robert Mueller has collected 1.4 million pages of documents from the campaign. And then there's this. According to the New York Times and other liberal media outlets, President Trump demanded Robert Mueller be fired. But Fox News tonight is reporting the president did not order Mueller to be removed. Instead, there was just a conversation back in June about the possibility, given Mueller's massive conflicts of interest. This is why last night I did not and will never in the future trust the New York Times, because they have gotten it wrong time after time after time. And it's why President Trump is ripping the so-called paper of record. Let's take a look.
Did you fire Robert Mueller? Did you want to fire Robert Mueller?
Fake news, folks. Fake news.
What's your message today?
Typical New York Times fake stories.
See, facts, truth, we've been telling you for a long time, it doesn't matter to the liberal mainstream media. And it's why last night when the New York Times posted their story, about 10 minutes till showtime for this show, the media goes into a frenzy. They're foaming at the mouth. They completely lost it. It's funny on the one hand, but sad because journalism's dead. Watch this.
The President of the United States tried to fire the independent counsel, Robert Mueller III. Does that rise to the level of an impeachable offense?
There's always been a question of whether or not Donald Trump is simply ignorant or whether he's corrupt. I think the more information we get, you start to lean toward corrupt.
Of all things, Donald Trump, through his first year in office, has done everything possible to undermine, obstruct, demean, and halt this legitimate investigation.
It adds to the mounting evidence that there is a serious obstruction case here.
I don't know how this movie ends, but there was a lot of bloodshed in The Godfather, and this is going to be a rough year.
It is so pathetically predictable from the news media. You know what? They never waste an opportunity to smear this president, peddle fake news. They don't care any longer about the truth. That's sad. Now, their singular goal is to damage, destroy President Trump. You can see it hour in, hour out, day in, day out, minute by minute. It's why the media has been getting caught in the wrong countless times, so-called major news stories. Let's give you a few examples just from last year. Remember fake news, CNN, the old network? Well, they falsely reported that Donald Trump Jr. received an email by WikiLeaks in advance of their release of the DNC emails and other documents. Well, it turned out that fake news, CNN, well, they got the date of the email totally wrong. It came one day after WikiLeaks made the DNC documents public. Remember ABC's Brian Ross, spectacularly wrong when he reported the former National Security Advisor, General Michael Flynn, that he was going to testify that President Trump ordered him during the campaign to contact Russian officials. Well, that fake news actually tanked the stock market, and Ross then had to issue a correction saying, oh, it happened during the transition, which means he was talking to a future counterpart. A huge difference. Now, Ross was suspended and is now banned from even covering President Trump. I can think of a lot of other people that should be banned as well. Now, we also have a totally dishonest Washington Post reporter. This is David Weigel. Now, he posts a picture from President Trump's recent rally showing that little tiny itsy-bitsy crowd. And the caption reads, "Packed to the rafters." Here's the problem. That picture is deceptive because it was taken before most people had gotten in there. And Weigel later apologized and deleted the tweet. Whoopsie daisy. Well, that's your media at its finest, at work. And by the way, those are only a few of the many examples of epic fake news screw-ups and anonymous sourcing, of course. It's why the New York Times, they report about Robert Mueller, and the media is over the top. The sky is falling down. Hysteria, coverage, breathless coverage. Well, it's not surprising. For over a year, they have been pushing conspiracy theories. They have been chasing ghosts about Trump-Russia collusion, and we still have no evidence. Now, meanwhile, the media has been completely oblivious to the biggest stories, it's right there, of their lifetime. Now, from what we've seen, it's shaping up to be the biggest scandal in American history, and they have missed the boat. Now, this is going to make Watergate look like an afterthought, and only a fraction of the information has yet to come out. We have been uncovering and reporting night after night on massive, severe constitutional abuses that were committed by top-ranking Obama, DOJ, FBI officials against the Trump campaign. New evidence is also showing that the Clinton email investigation was a total sham. It was rigged. The fix was in. And tonight, we have new text messages from corrupt, Trump-bashing FBI lovers Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. In a new exchange, it appears the couple was leaking information about the Clinton email investigation to the media. Look at the date, just before the election, October 28th, 2016, after news broke that the FBI found Uma Abedin's emails on creepy Anthony Weiner's laptop computer. Lisa Page writes, well, still on with Devlin. Politico is saying that's now Washington Post reporter Devlin Barrett. And Page finishes, Mike's phone is on fire. Strzok responds, it's on the news. Then adds, you may want to tell Devlin he should turn on CNN. There's news going on. And Strzok also says, sorry. And then Page replies, he knows, he just got handed a note. And Strzok says, ha, he's asking about it now. And Page answers, yeah, it was pretty funny. Coming now. Now, minutes after those texts are sent, Devlin Barrett then writes on Twitter, sources are telling him that emails on Weiner's computer might not be new, and instead were just copies of Clinton emails that the FBI has already looked at. Now, we reached out to the reporter, and he told us, no comment. Shocking. So we have what looks like leaks from Page and Strzok, and there's so many more, 50,000 total. This is only the tip of the iceberg. Let's go back to February 25th, 2016. Look at this. Page messaging her boyfriend Strzok. One more thing. She might be our next president. The last thing you need is us going in there loaded for bear. You think she's going to remember or care that it was more DOJ than FBI? And Strzok replies, agreed. So in February, Strzok and Page are actually saying they're worried about actually investigating Clinton because she might end up being mad at them and may want revenge if she wins because they think she's going to win, and they're trying to help her. Then just months later, in May, remember, it was James Comey and Strzok and other key FBI officials, they started writing Clinton's exoneration statement. This is months before interviewing her and 17 other key witnesses. When do you write an exoneration? Before an investigation. Now, this is where they changed the language, remember, from the legal standard. Gross negligence is a crime. They take that out. They put in extreme carelessness. Means the same thing, but legally a very big distinction. Well, that means they give Clinton a get-out-of-jail-free card. Then they also altered language about foreign actors likely hacking Clinton's server. That puts people's lives at risk. And they removed a reference to Clinton emailing with then-President Obama, which means he knew about the server. That means he needs to be investigated. That means he needs to be put under oath. So in other words, the fix on the email server scandal was in. Now remember, any of these issues that we're talking about with the email server scandal, they're all crimes. Mishandling classified information, destroying top secret classified special access program information. They're all crimes. Deleting 33,000 subpoenaed emails, crime. Acid washing, bleach pit, hard drives, crime. That's obstruction. Bashing devices with hammers, obstruction. So you have Strzok and Page literally putting the fix in along with Comey and apparently McCabe and Loretta Lynch all new. And they're talking about the need at one point for a special counsel to investigate Clinton's emails. On March 18th, Strzok writes, thought of the perfect person, and Dee can bounce this off of. Page asks who? And he responds, Pat, who Senator Grassley says is Patrick Fitzgerald, the special counsel. Remember in the Valerie Plame affair? He's the guy that put innocent Scooter Libby in jail, or got him a guilty plea in that case. And you got to give me some credit if we go with him and delay briefing him until I can get back and do it. In other words, with his own prejudice, his own point of view, his own spin. Late next week or later, he says. And then Strzok says later, I could work with him again, and damn, we get blank done. And Page follows up with, I know, like I said, we discussed boss and him yesterday. And on May 13, 2016, Page follows up on the idea. She says to Strzok, hey, forgot to ask if you mentioned the whole special counsel thing to Andy. We assume that's Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. Now, what Strzok and Page are doing here is stunning. And here's why. Strzok had a massive, massive role in the entire Clinton email probe. He oversaw the interview with Hillary Clinton and her top aides long after they wrote the exoneration. And Page, as you might remember, was McCabe's legal counselor. And they're both saying a special counsel is needed, which means that they had doubts that the FBI would do a real investigation, which they didn't do. Now, Senator Ron Johnson also made news this week, releasing text messages. On May 19th, Strzok appears to be talking about getting an offer to join Mueller's investigation. This is key here. Strzok says, my answer is no, I don't want to join that investigation. And then, the lead division, and then I think, wait a minute, this may be a case, will be in the history books, a chapter, much like you tell me about my extra time in the field and all the field cases. Would you trade it? 1 million people sit and ad and staff jobs. This is a chance to do. It may be the most important case of our lives. And around 30 minutes later, Strzok asked Page the question, an investigation leading to impeachment? He's the one that said there's no there. So in this case, it seems like Strzok knew that Mueller was going to try and impeach the president. And he wanted to be a part of history, but he didn't think there was any there. Go back to May 19th in the exchange, 2 days after Mueller was named special counsel. Strzok says, you and I both know the odds are nothing. If I thought it was likely, I'd be there, no question. I hesitate in part because of my gut sense and concern there's no big there. So Strzok, who served, he was a top intelligence official at the FBI. He signed the papers to start this phony Russia investigation, and he's saying that he knew from the start that Mueller would be carrying out a witch hunt. He didn't know if he wanted to be a part of it. And revelations about former Attorney General Loretta Lynch and her involvement in the Clinton email server cover-up. Now, it's June 2016. Remember Bill Clinton? He meets Loretta Lynch on a tarmac. They're supposedly talking about grandchildren for 40 minutes, which causes Lynch to say on July 1st that she was, literally stepping away from the investigation and she would accept whatever the FBI concluded. Now, keep in mind, all of this is before Hillary Clinton's interviewed. That happened on the 4th of July weekend, 3 days later. So after Lynch's statement, she's going to step back here, let the FBI decide. She'll go along with what they decide after she met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac. Well, Strzok, he writes back to Page, timing looks like hell, talking about Clinton and Lynch meeting on the tarmac. Page replies, yeah, awful timing. And Page later adds, it's a real profile in courage, meaning Loretta Lynch, since she knows no charges will be brought. Here's the problem. No decision was made. 4 days later, 3 days later, Hillary's interviewed. 4 days later, Comey holds his press conference, spends 13 and a half minutes laying out the case that Hillary Clinton should be indicted, and at the last 30 seconds of that, lets her off the hook. So you have Strzok and Page and Lynch and Andrew McCabe and James Comey all apparently knowing Clinton was never going to get charged, and the Obama administration put the fix in. The corruption here, if you're a New York Times writer, is unprecedented. You should maybe be covering a real story, because when you put it all together, here's what it all means. You have Hillary Clinton, we now know, fixed the primary against Bernie Sanders, or I'll use Donna Brazil's word, rigged it. Then Strzok, Comey, Lynch, McCabe, others, they all put the fix in. That allows Clinton to stay in the presidential race. They don't want to rock the boat. They want her to beat Donald Trump. So they'll overlook the crimes, the obvious crimes, with the incontrovertible evidence. Clinton and the DNC, then they try to influence the election with a bought and paid for $12 million Russian dossier full of Russian salacious lies and propaganda. And the Obama administration, they took the dossier, they weaponized the powerful tools of surveillance and intelligence, and then used the phony dossier to get a FISA warrant to target members of then the Trump campaign and later the incoming president. if this isn't Watergate on steroids and every single person involved not investigated and not prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, we have shredded our Constitution. Because you have powerful Obama administration officials in the FBI, in the DOJ, clearly trying to circumvent what is the will of you, the American people, because they did not want Donald Trump to become president. We can never let this happen again. And the only way to do that is to make sure we get every fact, every bit of truth, expose it to the American people, and those people that committed crimes need to go to jail. The key players need to be exposed. Now, which is what congressional Republicans, they're trying to do. They've been fighting to release the memo, some of them. You've been helping a lot, you in this audience. And what do we know from that memo that will be released probably next Wednesday or Thursday? We're told it will show severe FISA abuses against the Trump campaign and the president-elect and his team. And Fox News is learning that memo is going to be released likely in a matter of days. It is imperative. Keep the pressure on. Keep calling your members of Congress. Demand release the memo. The number of your bottom of the screen will get through, 202-224-3121. You've got to put the pressure on them. Tell Congress, release the memo. We deserve to know the truth. And while they're at it, release all 50,000 texts.